Hey there, guess what? I just passed the FAA exam for my drone license. I did it. Oh man, I'm at the gym right now. It's the day after. I feel great. I was able to actually finish it, so wanted to go over a couple of things that I did to kind of make that whole thing happen. And it was a lot of prep work. Obviously, you got to do some homework, you got to do some studying, and I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to post some of the links that I went to that helped me study, and those would include Tony Northrup, also Gary Glenn, and I'm trying to remember the name of the lawyer office. This guy's an actual airplane pilot, but he has some stuff on his website that was very useful. Anyway, all those links are down there. So what I would suggest is that you take about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, not more than 4, to study for the test. Now, I also recommend what you should do is, find where your nearest testing center is and get a date. Set a date a month in advance, kind of figure out your schedule, make sure you have time to study, but get your date, because that'll kind of push you forward to study and try to get this thing done. But I did all my studying on YouTube, watching videos and taking some sample tests or questions that were available either online or on YouTube. So, and then I passed with an 87%, 52 correct, 8 incorrect. That was my final score, which was incredible. Loved it. So I wanted to go over my exam anyway. My exam was the initial entry or knowledge exam for the Part 107 license. That was 60 questions. When I went to my testing center, it was in Beverly, Massachusetts at the Beverly Airport, and they had a great facility set up, so I was really impressed there. Everything was digital, so I went there. Guess I was expecting a answer sheet with a number 2 pencil. No, didn't happen. So everything is electronic. So when the test got started, you had all your questions lined up right along the left side of the screen, and all the questions had an X mark in it, meaning that it wasn't answered. Once you did answer it, it would put a green check mark next to that. You could also mark questions that you might have, had a little difficulty, you're not quite sure if that's the answer, but answer it anyway, mark it, and then if you have time, you can go back and look at it. So I'm going to say the way that my test was, and all tests are different, the way that mine was set up was that I think about the first 5 to 7 questions were all memory questions, right? All questions regarding memory. No other reference. You didn't have to go to the reference material at all. It was just all memory questions. So you could rattle those off pretty quickly, right? Boom, 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 boom. And then it came time for all the other stuff, the weather, the sectional charts, lots of stuff on sectional charts, using the legend on the sectional chart. So, but those questions took some time, because it was like at least from question 7 or 10, something like that, all the way up to like question 40. So like 30 questions, almost 35 questions where you had to go into, that were in a row too. So I was like chewing up all kinds of time doing those questions, because you had to go from, figure 52 back to figure 13, up to figure 78, then back down to 26, over to 27. Go back to page 2 for the legend. It was a lot of rifling through the handbook that they gave you, the reference material, which has a lot of the stuff. And The reference material is a very thick book because they use that for all other exams. People that are taking pilot exams, drone exams. You know, I can imagine, I remember when I was done flipping through it, and like, there's a lot of these figures in here that just don't apply to me, and they're, you know, for something else. So it's a pretty thick book. Anyway, that's what I got from my test. And then after question 45 or so, they went to all memory questions. So then I was starting, like, I knew the stuff. So you get a question, you're like, yep, that's it. A is the answer, B is the answer, C is the answer. Check, 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 next, next, next. And, you know, before you knew it, I was at question 59. And then the last question, right? So question 60. And then I finished it up. So then I said, oh, geez, I got these 5 or 4, I think it was 5, that I marked. So I went back to them and reviewed it again, kept all of them the same except one. I did change the answer on one of them, and that did help me. Again, I got 52 correct, 8 incorrect. The 8 that were incorrect were not the ones that I had marked. So the one that I did change the answer to that was wrong, it was then correct. So I got my 8 incorrect on other ones. And I think it's all about wording. Wording. Read the questions and read it out loud and make sure you understand it. Whew, boy, I tell you, that was just wording in some of the questions. My gosh. Anyway, that's I think that was my pitfall there. I probably would have done a little bit better, but I am satisfied. I got a passing grade, and I've got what they did there was everything was so once you're done with the test, you got your grade immediately. It came up on the screen, and then you tell the proctor or the person in charge that you're done, and then you kind of wrap things up, and then they went over to another computer where they printed off the actual certificate, had a raised seal that they stamp, and that becomes your temporary certificate, and then the form to fill out to solicit for your actual UAS license. And they said, you know, you got to take about 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours for the test results to get to the FAA. And once they do, then you can submit your paperwork for the actual card that you'll get, identification card, whatever. So, so that time hasn't passed yet. So I will do it probably in a few days, and they say it typically takes a couple of weeks. So I have a temporary one, and that's what I have now. So I am like super stoked. I can't believe it. It's over. But believe me, this is something you can do. So if you're thinking as you first start, you know, hey, all this stuff looks so confusing. It is, but just remember, once you start plugging away at some stuff, some of the stuff is repetitive. There's some questions that repeat, and there's at least 3 or 4 questions you're going to get, boom, automatically. Maybe even up to 10, you might know, boom, done. You know, so don't count yourself out. This isn't a hard test. It's 60 questions, all multiple choice. Mine had 3 answers, A, B, or C, and one of them usually is pretty obvious, so you can eliminate that, and then you got to choose between the others. So you just make the best decision there, and a lot of the times, you know, if one is completely obvious, you have 2 to choose from. You got a 50-50 shot of, you know, getting that one correct or incorrect. So you can do it, believe me. And again, all the stuff that I used, I didn't buy anything. I didn't need to. I did all my studying online. A lot of the questions were there. Again, wording on questions. So make sure you, what I would suggest that you do is find as many sample questions as possible and really drill yourself. Go back and figure it out. And once you start getting things wrong on the sample questions, write down what that question was about: sectional chart, weather, whether it had to do with the weight of the UAS. I got one of those wrong. I can't believe that. I thought I was going to be able to get that one correct, but the whole difference between it being 0.55 and 55 pounds, I got one of those questions wrong. That should be an automatic, but it's all about wording, so just remember that. And remember that this is something you can do. Something I did. I was sitting there going, oh, I'm never going to be able to. But I did it. It took me 2.5 weeks to study and set up the exam, and bingo, I was done. So just go for it. Because that's something you can do. So that was my story. You will have success as well. And if you have, please let me know about it. I want to hear about it. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. And go get that FAA exam. Crush it.